I had cleaned my room and my mental space by meditating for a while before the blast-off. I turned off the lights, lit several candles, and kept the room silent. When I was ready, I invited my 2 roommates and my girlfriend to join me as I lay in my bed. I sat up and took the biggest hit I could and held it in for about 10 seconds. As soon as I began to exhale, a cold energy vibrated throughout my head, as if I had burst into a fast stream of blue energy. I took a second large hit and felt a vibration and mechanical buzzing sound emanating through me and everywhere around me at once. I exhaled, and the room began to take on impossible depth, and my hands developed deep fractal rivers as the crack pipe I had used began to shrink. The pipe then started wriggling away, so I handed it to my roommate, laid down and closed my eyes. Immediately, the buzzing that I felt and heard took on a holistic attitude, and I was transported through it into another dimension altogether. I say transported, but I feel that I was in the same place and that this place had come to me or simply revealed itself all around me. I did not see another dimension. I experienced it. I lost all feeling of body and self and seemed to zoom out past such limiting concepts in a fractal flash of incomprehensible grandeur. My ego resisted for a few moments and reflected on the strangeness of the situation. I saw what I thought of myself, then my actual self, relationships, and life laid out before me for a brief time before it was all blasted away completely. I remember traveling through some sort of digital tunnel, like I was gliding through hyperspace. The tunnel walls were glowing and pulsating and dripping with audible sensations. It felt like a long while traveling and was completely overwhelming. After a while, I came to a mandala-type entrance of some sort, which reminds me of New Mexican Pueblo Indian art. It had deep red and brown concentric overlapping layers with nodes of orange light throughout. At the center was a bigger node of orange light that seemed to call to me. I call it the hyperdimensional sphincter. I fell through the hyperdimensional sphincter and seemed to then travel through outer space and outside of time to a different vantage point, far in the future or past, or not in time at all. I felt a deep sense of connectivity and kinship with all matter, as well as with the strange and fantastic forms of energy I saw. I felt the energy from ancestors or relatives of some kind reach out and touch me, welcoming me. They were calling out to me and reassuring me that everything would be okay, and that the life and universe I know are completely connected and heading to some specific point in the future. With these reassurances, I began to remember my own mind and the intentions for why I had come to this space. Then I experienced, or became, to use a better word, a deep sense of love and devotion that flowed through me and fused with me. It was accompanied by an orange and yellow display of morphing landscapes. I was very aware that this was the energy of new life of a child, and I felt a very deep connection to it. I heard the laughter of a child and felt its life growing and changing. It was reaching out and showing me its love and compassion and what it could bring to me. It seemed to lie somewhere in my future, and I felt a deep sense of love and gratitude back towards this energy, and at the same time towards the energy of my mother, who gave me life. My journey through hyperspace slowed, and I came through the fractal waves of information and out into a room that reminded me of a palace. I realized that I was beginning to separate from the pure energy of the experience and became aware that I had taken a drug and was, in fact, high as hell. At the center of a large room sat a huge entity towering in its importance and complexity. It, as well as the rest of the experience, is impossible to describe. The best visualization I can compare it to is the Lincoln Monument. It was a huge being materialized at the center of concentric circles of interweaving energies. It had a pale gray-white body and sat on a pale throne. Its head looked like a huge, gently rotating diamond with a blanket of compound eyes coating its surface. There seemed to be streaming bits of color from the background energy orbiting its head like slowed-down electrons with wills of their own. I call this thing the Lincoln Compound Eye King. It seemed like a god compared to me because it existed in a higher and more aware dimension than I. But I had the feeling it was also part of a continuum with energies higher than it. The being was surely aware of me, and I remembered that earlier in my experience, when I became anxious in hyperspace, It reached its hand out to me and caused me to feel the child's energy as if it was directing the experience. I also became more and more aware of my own ego and some of my body at this time, and realized I was lying in a chamber on warm coils of pure energy that surged through me. I noticed several other beings of bundled energy that resembled mechanical insects or fleas. I call them workers because they seemed to be very involved in helping to control and direct my experience. They were operating on me. I became very confused and anxious that I was in some sort of hyperdimensional alien operating room, but they communicated through direct feeling that they were healing me, so I calmed down and let them do their thing. One of the workers felt like a more female energy and was close to my right side trying to speak with me and reassure me. It was chirping, like a mechanical bird underwater. The workers were also chirping to each other, all under the watchful presence of the Lincoln being. I couldn't, nor did I try to understand this language, and instead laid back, absorbing the healing rays of energy that were being shot into my soul and body by these workers. I was amused, ecstatic, and in disbelief at this point, and my roommates heard me smile, chuckle, and say a few words. After a while, the healing began to fade, and the beings became faint in my vision. I felt washed over with rivers of all colors, like the window of a car wash, and began to leave the place where I had laid. I realized the trip was almost over and regretted having to leave that beautiful place. I communicated a sense of deep respect and gratitude to the beings and what they had done for me, and they acknowledged it. I was then sucked back through hyperspace, through the different realms I had traveled, back through the field of vibrations, and back into my own room. As soon as I could, I began speaking to my real-life companions about my journey and communicated as much of what happened as I could to them. Soon after, I wrote the beginnings of this report. Thank you for listening.